Hello, welcome to Ask Me Anything. My name is Acting Sergeant Good. I'm a recruiter in the Northeast region located in Thessalon, Ontario. I'm here today with Constable Kinshinen. Did I say that right?
Yep, relatively close.
Can you hear me, Krish, over in Elliott Lake?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Put your thumbs up if you can hear me. Looks like we might be having some tough technical difficulties up in Elliott Lake right now. So we are here today to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a constable on the road with the OPP. Constable Kinchton, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Caitlin?
So we'll talk a little bit about what it's like to be on the road as a officer with the OPP. I know a lot of you have tuned in over the past few weeks, months, and you've heard that I started off my career down south on the Highway Safety Division, and then moved my way up to Northern Ontario. Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think that it's getting delayed again, but I can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, Krish up in Elliott Lake, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Looks like our technical difficulties have disappeared. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, where you're currently policing, and what it's like to be a police officer up in Elliott Lake, the East Algoma detachment?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the GTA area. Grew up in Jane and Finch, to be exact. Um, I'm close to have about close to 3 years on the job now. Elliott Lake, for those of you who aren't aware, is between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury. Small little town located just off of Highway 108, 10,000, 11,000 people around there. Um, I initially wanted to work in the GTA area. I got put up here, and I will admit, blessing in disguise. I love it up here. Um, Day in the life up here is very unique. It is a retirement living where I work, but you get all sorts of calls for service here. But just to start off a normal day of policing, you sign on. Um, you usually talk with the outgoing shift. So, for example, I came in for my day shift today. Night shift is exiting. They're getting geared down. We talk to them. We say, hey, is there anything left over? Anything we need to follow up with? If not, we sign in. We get our cars. We get our call sign. And then if there's any pending calls on the board, then we attend to them. But usually in the morning time is usually the time where we can kind of, get sorted out any follow up from the day before, paperwork we can get adjusted to. I personally, within the hour, like to whatever paperwork needs to be done, get out of the way, um, and then try to get to the road as fast as possible because I just like to patrol. That's my priority is try to, be out there in the public, be within the view of the public eye, interact with people. Um, and then from there, it's anyone's game. They always say, I know for a lot of people have probably heard this, there's no typical day in policing. Every day is so vastly different. One moment for the first 2 hours of your shift, you're in detachment and you try to go patrol and nothing, no real calls for service happen. You're just trying to, do traffic enforcement, just talk to people, that sort of thing. And then the next moment, it's 10 calls back to back and you are on overtime for the next 4 hours after. So it's a variety of things, really, with policing, but it is such, you learn, you grow as a person. You meet such interesting people on this job. Um, and overall, yeah, it's a very unique career in that way, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
So, Krish, coming from Southern Ontario, moving up north, how is it moving away from your family and your home down in the GTA? Did you notice any? Did you have any issues along the way, or has the detachment been really supportive and your coworkers?
Yeah, so I was very much a homebody. I never really moved out, stayed with my parents. So for me to be 5 hours away from home, never the farthest north I've been up until moving up to Elliott Lake, obviously, was Newmarket. So it was quite culture shock, in all honesty, to come up here. Nothing's open after 9 p.m. Just you don't have all the usual amenities of being in the city, that sort of thing. And it's normal to feel homesick for the first couple of months. But luckily, I was very fortunate to have such a good platoon, good sergeant, good fellow constables to work alongside, and they helped with that transition moving up here. So my transition up here has been really good, I would say. And I'm loving it up here. I tell people this, and they don't believe me, but I legitimately mean this. I don't see myself going back to the GTA area. I want to stay north, because that's how much I've come to grow to love it now.
Awesome. So I know that being in Elliott Lake, it seems like kind of a younger detachment, younger officers working up there currently. Have you had lots of opportunities to get different different skills, different courses? I know that's something that a lot of people ask, what kinds of courses you can get. Have you had those opportunities working up in Elliott Lake?
Yes, definitely. So my first year here, I went through the SOCO course, which stands for Scenes of Crime Officer. For those who aren't aware, you basically get more practical knowledge about forensics, how to obtain DNA swabs, blood swabs, how to process a break and enter, look for fingerprints, that sort of thing. Um, and that was a 2 week course up in Timmins. I did that. Then just a year after, I went through the drug recognition expert course, which allows you to be basically an expert in drugs when it comes to impaired driving, people that are under the influence of operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of drugs. So that was a phenomenal course. You do 2 weeks down at Police College or in Aurelia, and then you have your practical examinations. For me, was Jacksonville, Florida, where you do your examinations on people actually under the influence of drugs. And right now, this month, I'm actually going on my breath tech course for the intoxilizer. So definitely, when it comes to the OPP, especially up in the north, you get a good say in what courses you want to go to it and the opportunities for such courses.
So, what was the hardest thing for you going from the south to the north, moving away from your family?
I think it's just getting used to not having your usual amenities. That's the main thing. But with that being said, the availability of stuff that you wouldn't usually have down south is more up here. For example, like if I want to go swimming, I could just go to a nearby lake. I could do not over 1,000 lakes in Elliott Lake, believe it or not. So just to go swimming, especially in the summertime, I don't want a vacation because just being in Elliott Lake is a vacation for me to like finish off shift. Sometimes me, my partner, we're like, hey, you want to go paddleboarding? And we just go off shift. Like once I'm done, grab our paddleboards and we just go back to a nearby lake, do that. And just the outdoors, hiking, fishing, that sort of thing. And I love it for that. It's really awesome to have that versus being in GTA for you to like go to a nearby beach or a nice scenic area where you want to do camping. You have to drive at least 2+ hours outside for that case. That's it.
Awesome. And the good thing about Elliott Lake is you're what, an hour and a half from Sudbury, which has all the box stores, the amenities, the Starbucks, all those kinds of things that you might want. And Elliott Lake itself has a few grocery stores, so it's not like you're stuck with a small little store in your community. You do have lots of options for purchasing food and some fast food restaurants and things like that too, which is great. So we have some people that have joined in. I want to thank everyone for joining in with us today, and we have some questions. I don't know if you can see the chat on the side. I'm just going to go through a few of them, and if you see some you want to answer, you can go ahead and do that as well. We've got some people asking if you need to be a Canadian resident or citizen to join the OPP. Yes, one or the other. You need your permanent residency or citizenship to apply to the OPP. That's one of our minimum requirements. Again, you can go to opp.ca/careers and have a look at all of our minimum requirements to join our police service. Lizzie Core, thanks for joining in again this week. She's asking, Constable K, what's been your favorite experience so far in Elliott Lake?
So being obviously from the GTA, I've never seen any wildlife besides raccoons, the usual squirrels, whatever you see in the city. So to encounter your first bear is a very surreal experience. Um, I still remember it when we got. So the call comes in that there's a baby bear, like a cub, stuck in the dumpster next to the grocery store. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, don't know what to really do here, but okay, let's go see what we can do for the little guy. I get there. First mistake, got out of my car. I hear a grumble behind me. Mama bear's charging at me, so I run into my car, obviously. And at that point, it's just okay. I kind of have to can't get out of your car because Mama Bear is obviously trying to get her cub out of the dumpster. Luckily, obviously, my sergeant's from the north, and he's dealt with this before, so he quickly comes over to the scene, throws a large like wooden plank inside, and I kid you not, the baby bear like Tarzan just goes up and then jumps out and then goes to Mama Bear and they go out into the bush there. So definitely that was one of the most memorable experiences being up.
Yeah, I was there too. I have to admit, when I first moved up, I'd never seen a bear in my life, and obviously they're big. We used to get calls. It was like, I don't know if you grew up with Pokeroo. We called it Pokeroo because every time I went there, he was gone. So we would get a call for service. There'd be a bear behind the hospital, and I remember going there trying to see it because I just wanted to see my first bear. So it took a few weeks before it happened, but eventually I did see my first bear, and yeah, that's an experience for sure. When you're from the south and you're used to what raccoons, you're lucky if you see a porcupine, something like that down south. Lots of squirrels. It's much different up here for sure. We have somebody asking if security experience is a prerequisite for anyone with 14 years of customer handling experience in a bank. And okay, so security experience is not a prerequisite for anyone to be a police officer. Obviously, that's going to be if you have a security license, that might be a special skill that you have experience working with people and being in security. That's obviously a great experience to have coming into policing because it does provide you with that experience, but it's not a prerequisite for sure. So, Chris, what kind of jobs did you work before you got into policing? Did you do security or anything like that?
Yeah, so most of my experience, actually, I was an ECE in childcare, and then
Okay.
for about 4 years, then I worked in security for 3 years at a university. But I tell people this: you don't need security to come into policing. I think Caitlin, you can vouch for that. It's all walks of life. Um, it's your communication skills. That's the main thing I would say in this job. If you're able to talk to people, whoever they are, you're able to calm down people, relate to them. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest takeaway. If you guys are looking to see what experience you would need in a job like this, is communication.
Absolutely, and especially with being an ECE, working in security, that would have provided you with lots of opportunities to communicate with people of all ages, old, young. That's a great experience for sure. Um, so we've got Mavi saying that he was an Uber driver in the past. That's the only job that he's ever worked, and he's wondering if he can join. You know what, Mavi? Like, if you've worked full time as an Uber driver, that's obviously you've got some good driving experience, communication with people, working with technology. So those are some good experiences. We're obviously going to look at your past employment and speak to anyone that you've ever worked for or with. So as long as we can contact people in there, again, maybe you have a lot of community service. It just depends on what your background is, but absolutely, if you've been working full time and yeah, as long as you've been working and we can see that you've had a job in the past, that's obviously something that we would look at. Do you see any questions on the side there that you want to answer? You can just scroll up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of
I
questions.
know that
Um,
there's a lot of questions on there for sure, and I know a lot of people. The main thing is they want to know what we're doing day to day. So I know that we've spoken a little bit about every day is different. Depends on where you're working, what detachment you're working out of. If you're up in Elliott Lake, you might get to work and you might have to go and relieve somebody that's at doing scene security at a call. So you get in, you get all your kit together, and you rush out to go and relieve that person that was on night shift. or sometimes you come in and you can actually check your emails because there's not calls for service waiting for you. So it again depends on the day. You could be assigned court security one day, depending on where you're working as well. If they don't have officers that provide court security, and you could be there all day listening to what's going on in court. So again, depends on where you are, and the day. You never know what you're going to be doing as a provincial constable with the OPP. We've got somebody asking how long it takes to get hired these days. Any changes recently? So what we regularly say is 2 to 4 months, start to finish for the process. That's kind of where we're at. Depends on when you put in your application as well.
And Kayla, if you don't mind me adding to that, I know 2 to 4 months. It's things happen, and I always tell people that apply. Just because somebody's process moves faster than yours doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just it's certain things that are happening in the background that just take time, more so compared to other applications, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything bad. I always tell people that just put your application in. Things take their time. Things will happen, and if you're going to be hired, you're going to be hired. That's what I tell people.
Absolutely. Somebody's asking about the next shuttle run dates. So again, we're planning them right now in the background. We're starting to post some for this month. The ones for next month should be posted in the next few days to weeks. So it looks like our next shuttle run is posted for North Bay, and that's going to be June 24th. So have a look, opp.ca/careers at the very bottom. All of our upcoming events are posted. We also have one in Mitchell, Ontario, which is on the 27th of June, 2024.
And Kaylin, there's a good question about the difference between, I guess they want to know about what highway safety division is exactly. And I think people want to know what's the difference between being a highway safety versus being a general law enforcement officer, and for example, Elliott Lake versus a guy working Highway 401.
Yeah, absolutely. So Highway Safety Division, it's one of our kind of like a region. So we've got Central Region, North, East, Northwest, West, East, Central, HSD, Highway Safety Division. So the Highway Safety Division it is comprised of all of the 400 series highways. So that would be like the QEW 403, 407, and all the other highways that are around there. And those officers, they strictly patrol the highways. Of course, if they need to go off for whatever reason, they do go off into the cities, but their patrol areas are the highways. So they deal with a lot of more Highway Traffic Act occurrences, debris on the highway, collisions, speeding enforcement, that kind of stuff. They're also dealing with criminal offenses that do occur on the highway. So there are a lot of calls for service there that are on the highways that we deal with. I work down in Burlington on Highway Safety Division. I know somebody mentioned they were auxiliary in Burlington on the side here in the chat. Thank you for volunteering your time. So Burlington Highway Safety Division, if you came in for a night shift and it was a weekday, you knew it was going to be stop and go traffic, and you'd be riding the shoulders to get to the collisions. It was always very busy until after 8, 9 o'clock when the traffic from Toronto has slowed down. So again, it depends on where you are. Toronto, we all know GTA, it's fairly busy, especially during rush hours. So you can come in and you can be working days and be nonstop your whole shift because you're dealing with collisions and traffic complaints, things like that. So again, it depends on where you work. General law enforcement is the surrounding communities. Sometimes they're more municipal policing areas that we do police, and the calls for service can be different. I know Elliott Lake, I worked there. I worked in Blind River and Thessalon, general duties, and again, similar calls to the ones that we got in the Highway Safety Division, and it just depends on where you are. I don't know if you want to add to that, Krish.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Yeah, typically speaking, I mean, when I talk to my people that I graduated police college with, or I mean, the provincial police academy with, I talk about what they experience versus what I do. The guys that work in HSD versus me, and it's a lot of traffic stuff, but because for them especially, Highway 401, for example, you're dealing with a lot of people that use that highway. Like millions of people every day use that highway, and you're meeting new and different people. Versus for me, it's I do meet new people. Don't get me wrong, but there's you meet a lot of the same people because it's a small town. You build rapport with them. You know who they are, and it's funny because we had a couple guys come up from HSD to help up in Elliott Lake. And I remember just we went to a call and I was talking to him, and then we left. And immediately they asked, "Wait, you didn't even have to ask that guy's name. You already knew him before." Like, and it's like that's the different type of policing, something in that aspect where working in a small town, you know everybody. You already had the rapport. Um, you know how somebody's going to behave, or just certain things. Versus HSD, it's all new people you're dealing with every day. And again, GLE working out like you get exposed to more calls or different types of calls. I would say, not to say that HSD doesn't get a lot of calls, but yeah, you're breaking enters, more of your domestics. I would say, um, but yeah, that's been my experience.
Awesome. So, Krish, are there any skills that you've developed on the job that surprised you?
In terms of skills, definitely when it comes to how you detect impaired driving. Um, it's crazy how that skill, as the years go on, even though I'm only approaching my third year, from versus my day one of starting here to now. Uh, and obviously, I've gone on the drug recognition expert course and all that stuff. But as you go to more calls, for example, for impaired driving, your ability to detect, oh, okay, not just the slurring of the words, the smell of alcohol, but it's even just being a better investigator, looking in the center of the console, looking for alcohol, and just your observation skills expand greatly once you talk to more officers, you get in more calls. And I would say, yeah, just your observation in general, because before coming to this job, um, when you go to a certain call, you think, okay, this is what I have to look for. But as the time goes on, with more officer experience, more discussions with other officers, you get to pick up on things you never would have picked up on day one. So in that way, just your observation skills develop greatly in this job.
Awesome. So, how often do you interact with community outside of emergency situations? So that kind of goes with what we were just talking about, dealing with people in the community. I know that being in the East Algoma cluster, there's tons of community events that we do attend. As officers just working the road, sometimes we're assigned to go to them, sometimes we're doing P duties, and sometimes we're just doing patrols in the schools because we're working and maybe we don't have a call for service, and we like building those relationships. So it's I used to find working the road that I did have a lot of positive interactions outside of policing and calls for service with the community. What do you feel the same, Krish?
Yeah, it's especially being in a small town, people, I mean, just generally want to talk to cops. They just want to interact with you. They want to ask, hey, how's it going? How's like your day going? Especially when I go to pump gas, I'm always striking up a conversation with someone. And it's nice. It's really nice when you get to find out what someone's going through in their lives or whatnot. But yeah, just I always tell people this: it's not just emergency situations where we engage with the public. It's just even just driving around. You see some kids on bikes, you go talk to them, that sort of thing. We do the positive ticketing program here as well, where we see kids with bikes. I go up to them and like, hey, good job on the bike, and give them a coupon for a free slush at the Kmart or something like that. But no, you strike up a lot of conversations with different people, and you learn a lot. It happens more often than you think, for sure, outside of emergency situations. Yeah.
Awesome. I know there's a question here from Caitlin Tidwell. It says a deep question for you both. Did you ever have a moment in your training as a new officer where you doubted if this was really the right career for you, and how did you overcome that? And you know what? I'll answer that one first. So coming from a university program where I went to be a teacher. I had no experience in policing. I had a family member that was a police officer, so I knew a little bit about what it was about. I'd done some ride-alongs, but really you don't know until you're in it, until you're actually working the road. You don't know if this is really the right decision. You always think back, what if? So I went to school to be a phys ed teacher. What if I was a phys ed teacher? So I still look back and I think, what would have happened if I took that path? But you know what? I'm really thankful that I did take the one that I did in policing, because it's provided me with so many opportunities to have many careers within a career. I know that I'm into physical fitness. Now I get to do fitness testing with people. So that's kind of my way of doing what I went to school for and getting to enjoy that. I know through training, it was a challenge. I didn't have any background in the criminal code, highway traffic act, any of that. I didn't have that knowledge coming in, where a lot of people in my class did have that knowledge. So it was a challenge. I had to study a lot through the Ontario Police College. I had to work hard, and it was a challenge, but they set you up for success. If you're not doing well, they'll set you up with somebody that can help you out. And again, it was a challenge. The way I overcame it was I just kept on working, and I kept on doing things that made me happy. So for example, at the Ontario Police College, I would do some studying, and then I'd go for a long run because that's what made me happy. And I enjoy physical fitness. Or I would go run with somebody else that was maybe having a hard time with the running, because that was something I excelled at. And they helped me with learning different sections of the criminal code or memorizing things. So you know what, you all work together. And in the end, my goal was to become a provincial constable. And that's how I overcame it, by doing things that I love, dealing with my stress by doing things like running, just to overcome it. What about you, Krish? Did you ever think about, what if I didn't get into policing? What if I was still an ECE, or what if I was still doing security?
Yeah. So that initial question where they asked if you ever had doubts and stuff, but yeah, I'm piggybacking off yours as well. It's funny because I remember I did auxiliary with another service before I got hired on with the OPP. And I remember I did numerous ride-alongs with that service. And for those of you who've done ride-alongs, I feel like it's very easy to think, oh, you got a good understanding of what this job is like. Yeah, I can do that. And it isn't until, like you said, once you're behind the driver's seat and you're actually going to these calls and you're seeing people at their darkest moments of their lives. And it's not just that, but then the calls for service start coming in and it's getting hectic. You barely caught up on your notes, your reports, and you're just trying to go from call to call. That's the moment where you're like, oh my God, this is more than I would have anticipated. But with that being said, it's very satisfying once you learn how to navigate those calls, once you learn to develop the skills to handle those calls appropriately, the good report writing, the note taking, how to effectively de-escalate someone who's in a state of crisis. In those moments, especially, I never had doubts. It was more like, oh my God, this is more than I signed up for, but happily so, in the sense that you really do, again, grow as a person, you grow as an officer, most importantly. Yeah, that's just where mine is at.
Okay. So help me, Rhonda's asking, can you do your shuttle run before you make the first step through the application process, or do you have to wait until asked to do it? So if you go to a shuttle run event and you haven't applied yet, but you plan on applying in a few days, as long as you submit your application and get an email from recruitment that everything's good and they've asked you for your shuttle run, and it's still within those 30 days of when you received your shuttle run certificate, successfully getting level 7, then you should be good. You shouldn't have to do another shuttle run. Again, it has to be within that expiry period. We put the date that you get it and 30 days after as the expiry. So we will have a look at that when you're applying. On your application, you can actually submit your certificate if you do receive one at one of the events, so that we're aware that you've completed it already, and you will just kind of skip through that portion of it. What advice would you give someone considering a career in law enforcement, Krish?
Definitely, before I got into this job, Again, you see a lot of trauma, to put it the best way. You see a lot of things that the everyday person won't see. Again, you will see more trauma in your lifetime than the average person that doesn't work in emergency services. What I would suggest, even before even considering coming into this career, is take care of yourself. Have things in place for yourself, even before. Like, do you have a good social support network? Are you able to deal with stress in a positive manner? Because like I need to address the elephant in the room. There are obviously people who've heard, first responders committing suicide, and with that being said, it's you gotta make sure that you again have those proper contingencies in place to take care of yourself even before coming to this job. So yeah, just positive ways to handle stress, because when the stress hits in this job, you got to make sure that you have the people that you can go to. You got the people in your corner that you can go to when times get tough. Um, but yeah, that's what I would suggest is just make sure that positive coping methods with stress. Definitely look into that and make sure that you're able to take care of yourselves before you can take care of others.
I love that, Krish. That's awesome. So the OPP also has 100% coverage for psychological resources too. So that's huge as one of our benefits. We also have a healthy workplace team and tons of supports within our detachments that help people if they go to stressful situations. We've got peer supporters. So we do have things in place for officers that are working if they go to, say, a stressful call and somebody realizes, hey, I think this officer is really struggling. We do have supports in place for those people. And like I said, we do have clinicians that will come into our detachment and just be there to talk to us about events that happen. And we do things like debriefings as well for big events. I know if you go to calls that really affect you, some large calls sometimes send deaths, things like that. We do debriefs amongst our detachments and members that were there, which are great. I don't know. Have you ever experienced anything like that where you've had supports from the OPP, Krish?
Oh yeah, and the organization's been really phenomenal in terms of following up with you when you go through something very traumatic. Or we call it critical incidents, and it's right soon after they're checking in on you, and it's nice to know that people are looking after you and just making sure that you're okay to come to work. You have everything you need, and that way, I'm very grateful being in this organization that you're taken care of in that regard.
So we've got some people here asking about if you get to choose the detachment that you want to go to. So on your application, you get a choice or you get a chance to put down 6 detachments that you would like to police at. We will look at those 6 detachments. They can be anywhere in the province. You can pick one from Northeast, Northwest, Central, East, West. Doesn't matter. You can pick detachments from anywhere you want and put those down. We try to get you one of your top 6. We will talk to you if you make it to the interview process. We will talk to you about why you've chosen those. Sometimes people will choose detachments all over just to show us that they're willing to police anywhere in the province. And that's something that we will talk to you about because we want to know if you're willing to go anywhere in the province because we have certain detachments that might need officers more than others. A lot of the time there's obviously a heavy population in the GTA, so we get a lot of applications from there and maybe not as much from the Northeast, Northwest. So it's a big deal for us to have people that are willing to go to the Northeast, Northwest where we may not have as many applications coming in. So Krish, when you applied to the OPP, did you choose Elliott Lake as one of the detachments you wanted to go to?
No. What happened was I think if I recall correctly, I think I put 2 HSDs detachments, one Aurelia, and I put Timmins because I was willing to go anywhere. And I forgot the last one, but yeah, so it wasn't on my list, but at the same time, I did propose like I'm willing to go anywhere, and it worked out for the best. No.
That's awesome. So Robert's also saying that the OPP does the same for our civilian auxiliary special constable members with mental health. Yeah, there's great supports with mental health. Obviously, that's number one. Krish explained it really well. We see a lot of things, whether we're working on the road or working at the detachment, special constable auxiliary. When you're working as a police officer, you can be involved from the detachment with critical incidents, and you never know what it might affect you. So it's great that we do have these supports for all of our members. Samuel's asking how long the OPP will be hiring large numbers. As long as we need to. So we have large classes. Every 3 months, we are hiring a large amount, over 100 officers. So if you're looking at applying, now is the time to apply. Samuel is saying he's finishing college in 10 months. Awesome. Get your application started now. Or you know what? Start on an Excel or Word document. Start writing down all your volunteer experiences, all your jobs, and get everything ready if you're not ready to put in your application. Again, it said it takes 2 to 4 months from the time that you put in your application. So make sure that if you're willing to start with the OPP right after you graduate, that you apply a few months before that. So
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, no, there's a really good question from Jimmy. What other stuff do you guys do aside from keeping the road safe and doing traffic stops? Do you guys do any criminal investigations? So it's funny because I feel like people have this preconceived notion that being Ontario Provincial Police, all we do is traffic, highway, tickets, which is not the case, especially if you work in the general law enforcement detachment like LA Lake or Aurelia, that sort of thing. And when it comes to criminal investigations, for example, like when I go to a break and enter, like I'll do my scenes of crime processing of the scene, get your evidence, you go, you look for witnesses, you get the security footage, you look at the security footage, you send out a BOLO email or just an email to your fellow officers to see if we can identify who this person is. You go and talk to people, you get statements. And then when you find out who the suspect may be, then you have to do an accused statement. And then and when you end up finally charging the guy, you have to compile that brief. We call it the Crown brief. But yeah, it's a lot of criminal investigations up here, and we do a lot of follow-up in regards to criminal investigations. So that's the one thing, especially I always tell people, when you come to the North, you do everything up here. And with that, you gain a lot of experience. You understand the ins and outs when it comes to investigating crime.
Yeah, that's so true. You do things start to finish. You do the call, you do the investigation, you do the arrest, you do the brief. A lot of other detachments or other Southern Ontario police forces, sometimes you will arrest the person, bring them to the detachment, and hand over your notes, and you're done. That's the one thing that I've really noticed about coming up north, that there's lots of opportunities to gain knowledge on how to do a thorough investigation, how to submit briefs, because you have the time versus sometimes in Southern Ontario, you're called to call to call. You don't have those opportunities to do things start to finish. But in the North, you get those opportunities, I find, a lot more. So somebody backers asking about their shuttle run. Send me an email at caitlin.good@opp.ca. You can see the spelling of my name on the screen there, and I will look into it for you. Somebody asking about the psych assessment and any tips. Get a good sleep the night before. It might be 1 day, might be 2 days, just depends on timing and everything. So make sure that you get a good sleep the night before. Really, there's nothing that you can do to prepare other than making sure you're well rested, and that's about it. Do you remember doing your psych test, Krish? I know we can't talk about exactly what's on it, but do you have any suggestions for anyone that does it?
The best suggestion I would give, believe it or not, is don't talk to other people, because it will make you even more anxious when you talk to other people. And I know people do it where they talk to other people and ask them, hey, what was in your psych? What questions did they ask you? It doesn't matter, because the psych is centered around you as a person. So the best person that's obviously going to answer those questions is you. So just get your, like Caitlin said, just get a good night's sleep. Don't overthink it, and just go into it. Don't even worry about what other people went through. That's what I would suggest.
Awesome. So Ravi is asking how to prepare for the local focus interview. You know what? Practice with somebody else. I suggest that you review your application. We're only going to ask you about yourself. Really, there's no tricks, no tips really, other than review all your stuff that you have on your resume. Maybe talk to somebody else about yourself. Have a friend that you can kind of talk about those 10 areas and where you're at. So for example, your fitness, what you've been doing day to day, things like that. Jobs that you've had in the past, talk about them, talk about people that you worked with. Just practice articulating yourself with somebody else so that you're comfortable talking about yourself, because a lot of people feel awkward talking about themselves and talking about things they've done, maybe opportunities they've had in the past with their career. So you've got to get used to talking about yourself. I saw earlier, I can't seem to find it right now, but somebody was asking about how you can prepare for the fitness testing. So through the application process, the only thing that you need to submit fitness wise is obviously your fitness logs, but the only test that we have you complete is getting that level 7 on the shuttle run. The best way to be successful is practicing. So you can set that up anywhere at any time, inside, outside. It's beautiful out right now. You can set it up in front of your house on a dirt road or in a parking lot somewhere or in a hallway at work. So practice it. That's the one test that you can definitely prepare for, as well as the prep test is something that also includes the shuttle run, and you have to achieve level 7 at the end. So get your cardio up. As long as you're able to pass that level 7, you should be able to successfully pass that prep test. The pin test is something that we actually have listed on our fitness logs. Have a look at our fitness logs. We want to see that you're consistently doing the pin test. You can consistently get 75% on that pin test. So have a look at all the components of it. And you can look at our reach videos to get suggestions as well on how to do these different components of it. But make sure that you're including all of your physical fitness on your fitness logs, and you should be successful in the end at the Ontario Police College. Krish, how did you prepare yourself physically for the Provincial Police Academy and Ontario Police College?
Yeah, so I always tell people the fitness is doable. Coming from somebody, I had to go through like major weight loss for this. I was 260 pounds. I dropped like 60 pounds within like the year for me to just be a better runner. And I always tell people just run. Running is run. And you will hate it at first, but you run so much that you'll eventually love it. That's what I tell people. But what I did was lots of cardio, lots of functional training. So kettlebell stuff, that helps a lot. Obviously, go do your strength training, your leg, your chest, shoulders, that sort of thing. But cardio is something I tell people just try to put that as a priority, because a lot of the points, I guess you could say, from the pin come from the shuttle run / 2.5 kilometer run. If I'm correct, is it 2.5? Yeah, 2.5 kilometer run. But yeah, just keep at it, be consistent, be good with your recovery. And yeah, you'll have no trouble getting there.
So somebody's asking about the interviews with the OPP. Yep, as of right now, they are still online. So your local focus interview is online. You don't have to worry about traveling anywhere for it. It's from either behind a computer or phone, whatever you choose to use for it. Okay, you know what? We'll take one more question, Krish. We're reaching that time of the day. So what do you think? So we have somebody asking about volunteer experience, and what to kind of include in your application. So I've mentioned it before, volunteering is very important. We want to see that you are involved in your community and that you are an active member in your community. So put down anything at all that you are doing to help your community, whether that's taking care of someone's children that's a neighbor that just needs you to watch them while they run to the grocery store so they don't have to bring their young children to the grocery store, whether that's helping or donating blood, whether that's shoveling a neighbor's driveway, whether that's getting involved in an organization like the Special Olympics and helping coach teams. There's tons of opportunities in the communities that you live in that you can get involved. You don't need something formal. Again, it can be informal volunteer experience. It doesn't have to be something formal. Krish, volunteering, what kinds of things did you do before you got on with the OPP?
Yeah, so I did before I applied. I was volunteering with this is back at the Markham Stouffville Hospital in the GTA area. They have sick kids has like a NICU unit. So I was volunteering there. It's a Ronald McDonald House. That's what I was doing. So I was volunteering there. I also did Big Brothers Big Sisters, and then I also volunteered at the Vaughan Community Health Center as basically who's running. I helped run a program for elderly people on how to use technology better, basically. So it was just three things, but it was consistency and the quality of it that is the main thing I would say to people. It doesn't matter how much, as long as you are consistently engaging with your community in a positive manner. I think that's the best thing, and I think that's what we're looking for as as Caitlin's recruiter is looking for in the OPP. That you're contributing to your community in a positive way.
And yeah, we've got somebody saying the auxiliary program is a great way to get involved. It gives you great experience on the job to get involved with the OPP and show us that you would be a great employee and somebody that we would want to hire. So it's a great experience. You get your volunteer experience. You get to meet officers, see if it's really what you want to do. So that is a great experience. Thank you for including that. So again, I want to thank you everyone for joining in this week. I hope we answered all your questions. Again, join us 2 weeks from now when we do our next Ask Me Anything. And I want to thank you, Krish, for joining us from up in Elliott Lake today. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.